Oh, okay, okay.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the African American Athlete. I'm Michael Roberson with my friend and brother. I'm Ricky Hampton.
Yeah. When did I change bodies?
I'm Ricky Hampton with my friend and brother Michael Roberson. And we're joined by another legendary Duke tonight. The great Matt Calvin, Hall of Fame point guard, is here to talk some hoops with us. Uh, we got the NBA Finals starting tomorrow. Tomorrow night, the NHL playoffs starting tonight. I think they've already dropped the
It's
puck.
already going on.
Who's
2-1
up?
so far?
Who's up, Mike?
Florida's up 2-1.
2-1. But Matt, I really wanted to get you on so you could share some of your insight with the viewers out there. First of all, before we even get to the finals, I want to talk about some of the off-court stuff. But I want to start your overall thoughts of what you've seen leading all the way up to the finals.
Well, let's start with the Western Conference leaders and the team that's been there all year long. And that's Oklahoma Thunder. They obviously have not surprised anyone. They had a pretty tough series with Denver. And when later Denver really got it together, obviously no one expected Denver to get as far as they did because of the firing of Mike Malone. But I thought they did a great job. I talked to some people with the Denver Nugget organization higher up, and they told me exactly there was nothing but a negative atmosphere there. The culture just absolutely pitiful in their eyes, and they had no choice. The Kroenke family had no choice but to fire Mike Malone, and it just that negative culture went on for a good 25, 30 games, and somehow they got it together, got on a little run, but they had to make that decision because there was really no one was healthy. So Oklahoma did not surprise me at all. What I was surprised with to see how far Minnesota went. I was really surprised there because they were an inconsistent team all year long. They were not a good matchup for the Oklahoma at the end, in my eyes. Now going to the Eastern Conference, the first two, the Cleveland was the disappointment, but you can blame it, have some excuses that they were injured. That their star players set out, except for Mitchell, set out the first two games. When you have three players, Garland, Mobley, and Allen, sit out your first game and then the second game, now it's a 5-game series, and they had a difficult time. A lot of pressure on Mitchell to play and play well, which he did, but that was a big surprise there. But Detroit, I like the way they play. Your team, Mike, Ricky, they really play well. Really have a bright future, in my opinion. Now the Knicks, on the other hand, I thought they overachieved personally. I thought with their personnel, with the lack of bench, they overachieved. I thought Tibbs did a great job. He's stubborn in his own ways of not playing his bench and some other issues that they had going on. He finally found a good rotation, but they had a very weak bench. I tell you, the guy they really missed was DiVincenzo. I think that's how you pronounce his name, who was from Minnesota. They missed him. They had a short bench, had no backup point guard, and they got as far as they could go. But when they lost that first game up by 20 points with 4 minutes to go, I thought that told the whole story of who they really were, and you can see their attitudes were deflated. So that was no surprise there. Indiana has been my pick all along. Of course, that's an old ABA team, Pacers, and I just thought that they got on a roll, and this is going to be a great series, and if I was a bet man, I would say the Indiana Pacers will win just by the way they're playing. They match up very well with OKC. They've got someone that can stop, at least slow down Shea Alexander. Um, I think it's going to be a great series, and we can get into that. So not much to surprise other than the Pacers.
Michael, your thoughts leading up to where we are now. Was
Yeah,
it any team or any
well,
series
you
that
know,
surprised you?
what's interesting is that back earlier in the year, remember I covered a Warriors game, one this year, and that was against the Cavaliers. I even asked Atkinson in the post game. I said, "Are you worried about your team peaking too soon?" Because with Mitchell, he's been on a couple teams that have been like upper echelon in the regular season, then they crash and burn in the playoffs. So I was wondering, what he felt about that. And he felt that he's pretty confident they could keep it together. Now, of course, like you said, Mac, injuries and all that did come into play, but they still were very disappointing. And of course, winning 64 games. I mean,
64.
That's the second best record ever in Cleveland history. 66 when LeBron was there in 61, but 64 games. I mean, and then come out like that, it's really disappointing. And once again, it's at the feet of Donovan Mitchell. So, unfairly, a lot of people are going to say, dude, you can't get it done. And you keep having these teams that are pretty good in the regular season, but what do you do in the playoffs? So sometimes you just get into a bad position where it always looks like you are the one not getting it done. But, like I said, those injuries, didn't help at all. And then, of course, Indiana, of course, a little biased because Halliburton's from Wisconsin, so I always root for somebody from Wisconsin. But, being called overrated, all that stuff. So the chip on his shoulder, having to deal with all that, Then, of course, as I said before, and, of course, I'm seeming to always be on Giannis, the whole situation with his father. I mean, Giannis, why don't you just say, okay, older man, I'm going to respect you as an older man, as an elder. All right, you get in my face and trash talk, I'm going to turn the other way. He didn't have to get in his face. Then that turns into a whole controversy where the father gets suspended for several games. He does come back, and luckily it doesn't mess up Indiana's chemistry. And most importantly, Halliburton. Halliburton played pretty well after that. I mean, so that could have been something that could have really impeded the progress of Indiana, because your lead guy is all flustered now that his father has been put on Front Street like that. So I was kind of disappointed with that. And then, of course, the Knicks, I mean, they once again, it came down to Tibbs, running to that same scenario where it seems like he runs down his players. His rotation is not that great. He only played a handful of players. Somebody made a funny, I think it was Kenny Smith, and he said that if he was a baseball manager, he still wouldn't field 9 players. And I said, wow. But it was funny, but it's like, hey, you know what? I mean, that's the way it seems to be, because, you only got a handful of players, and then your guys break down. And then, of course, Brunson, played really well. But when it came down to it, they just didn't have enough. I mean, he made some huge shots.
Matt,
Yeah, he was exhausted. That kid was exhausted at the end. I mean, they threw a lot of bodies at him. Their biggest problem is they didn't have any depth, and you had an inconsistent Bridges. He was very inconsistent. So you really only had only 3 scoring. I thought OG did a great job. Thought he had a great series. He came out, but they didn't go to him enough. I think, I didn't realize Tibbs, and he was around when I was coaching, 20 years ago. He's been around, but, he's a guy that's stuck in his own ways, has his own system, but you got to put the ownership on those players that first game. You up by 7 points with 40 seconds to go, or 37, whatever that number was. You don't lose that game. Those games in the playoffs, man, are very precious, and they're hard fought. You got a 17-20 point lead, 4 minutes. You don't lose that game, and now you got a 6-game series, and now you've got to win 4 out of 6 games. and 3 of those games are going to be on the home court of Indiana. So I just thought that that first game deflated the Knicks, and I think they made the right decision in letting Tibbs go. I mean, where they're going to go? Where are they going to go? They have to build that bench, in which they gave away a lot of 5 first-round draft picks over the next 3-4 years. The salary cap's at a max. Where are they going to go? You've got to build that bench. You know, Payne was inconsistent. Only guy that off that bench who had some spark was McBride. So there was, and Roberson played very well, but he's not a scorer.
Right.
So it gives you the whole hustle part. The same with Hart. Hart was inconsistent. So you cannot get to the NBA Finals with 7 players. It never happened before.
Hey, Mac. I mean, you've coached in the NBA. You've been there and done that. And you were talking about his stubbornness, but doesn't the coach have to have a little stubborn streak in him at that level?
Well, Rickey, this is the players' game, and the players have got to feel comfortable in their coach. You got to be flexible. It's a copycat league, and I thought Tibbs have just had his own style and his own way of substitution. And everything. I just think he wore his players down, so did Bronson, and they didn't have anybody to come in to that's 5-6 minutes to keep it at a plus level. They didn't have that. Only guy was McBride. So where do they go from there? I still think they're one of the top 3 or 4 teams. You got to discount Boston. I don't see Boston back for a long time. If they get back with Bronson with torn Achilles tendon, they're going to have to. You're going to have to just fight it out for the next couple of years. But
yeah, Boston has a lot of financial issues to address. Yeah,
well, they just sold their team, but they sold the organization. The owners got out, but torn Achilles tendon. Even though he's 27 years old, unlike Lillard, who's 34, be 35, those are injuries that are very difficult to come back from. And so I see Boston down quite a bit. They're going to make a trade, get rid of Holiday, but that's how much that's going to upgrade them. I don't know. But the team you better be aware of, and they're under the cap, is the Detroit Pistons.
I like hearing you say that.
Well, that's a fact. That's a fact. Well, I've known J.B. Bickerstaff since he was 2 years old. I've known his dad all my life, who was my mentor coming up. So he's done a great job. They're under the cap. I think their general managers and president there are doing a great job of bringing in young players. So they're going to be pretty solid for a long time. Cleveland's going to be there. I agree with you, Mike. Donovan Mitchell has just been an inconsistent player when the spotlight is on him. He played well the first 2 games or 3 games, even throughout the series, but he was still inconsistent with the last game and they lost. So I see them still be there. They're going to be there, but they just got to get healthy. Garland is the key guy that's got to stay healthy.
Well, and I want to go back and let Mike get in on this. I want to just ask this, Mike, to Mac. Well, in New York, you got to get a coach. Mike Malone is sitting out there. You don't seem to be. He's just won a championship. Could he be a guy to come into New York City?
It's a cookie cutter, man. He is very similar in his personality and his style. The same with Tibbs. Very similar. He won a championship because he had one of the top 5 or 7 best player of all time in the NBA in Joker. The records prove what I'm saying, but he would not. I thought about this. There are 2 guys that I would go after. Well, one is sitting on the bench. Why not hire John Bronson's father to coach the team? He's a former player. He knows those guys. He knows the culture of them. His son is going to continue to play. His son's got a little juice because his contract's coming up. When he didn't take the full, he's due for a full max contract. So he's got a say in who won. And then the other guy, my number 1 pick I would go after is Wright, the former coach at. I think he's right.
From Villanova.
I think he's a perfect fit there. He's young. He's 62, 63. Got out of the college business because of the name and likeness image situation, NIL. I think he'll be a perfect fit for the Knicks. I thought Philadelphia at first, but he saw that was a team that was going down here. I think he would be a perfect fit. There's no other coaches out there that I can see. No assistant coaches, maybe Sam Cassell, but you need a players coach. That's still relatively a young team.
What
That's
about
my
Mark
thoughts.
Jackson? What about Mark Jackson?
Mark's got a black eye in the league. He's been blackballed on some things he said and did, and he doesn't have the necessary experience in coaching the guys today. Mark's been out of the game 15 years as a coach, and I think that makes a big difference. You saw what they did with J.J. Redick. Well, you guys know why he was hired, but he had at least been in the game, and he hired and then the other guy. There's two other guys sitting on the bench out there. I think that would probably draw some attention to get an interview. It's Scotty Brooks and Nate McMillan, and the other guy. Yeah, and the other guy that I think that should at least get an interview is guy sitting on the bench. Coach at Vanderbilt, played in the league, Stackhouse. Those are guys. Yeah, you got to get today. If you don't get a player coach that that can relate to the players. I mean, look and see what's going on. I don't see that guy. I would be surprised if he lasts the summer. And that's the coach in Finch in Minnesota. Yeah, I mean he can't handle that little young kid. And so you got to have it's a players coach. It's a player coach relationship, man. If you don't have that, you're in trouble.
Mike, that's why it's fun having Mac on, man, because he cuts right to it. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, well, I didn't say the West. So the West, of course, SGA and all those guys. But the thing I was worried about was would they recover from the way they lost last year? Remember they lost last year on an SGA foul on a shooter in the corner. And it's like you guys were the favorite, and then you just failed miserably in that series against Dallas, I believe. And then I didn't know how they would recover from that. Sometimes you can have a team have all the bells and whistles, and then they have a horrible ending, and they don't recover from it. So they actually came back with vengeance, and now made it all the way to the finals. So that one, I was somewhat relieved that they did have the wherewithal to do that. Lakers, of course, having a 3 seed and then bowing down to the Minnesota team, as Max said, was inconsistent, and I didn't understand how that happened. And then, of course, Houston, 2 seed. I always felt that was they were overachieving in that moment.
Yeah, I did too.
And the Warriors to come out. So, that was the thing about it, that all the top seeds were looking, pretty feeble. And then you had the lower seeds come up, but I didn't think they would be able to overcome Oklahoma City. And Oklahoma City looked pretty unbeatable until they got beat by 42. And I'm like, how can you be a team that's expected to win the finals and get blown out like that? I know we've had Celtics getting blown out by the Sixers and vice versa, and the Lakers and all that, but they look pretty vulnerable in that situation. So that's why I was saying that they still have a lot to prove. And like Mac and I were saying, is that Indiana, even though they're the underdog, they do have the wherewithal to possibly win this series. So that's the one thing about it, is that Oklahoma City can have all the accolades and all that, but until they get it done, it's going to still be that kind of, but.
Well, one of the two go get it done, because Indy's never won an NBA title, and neither has OKC. So somebody's going to get over the hump.
Yeah, no question. Let me go back. I like jiving with Mike sometime, jabbing, because he goes way back, man. Last year was last year, brother. You talk about, it's like, oh, they didn't do this in the last game. Well, they were still feeling themselves. They were still growing. Okay, it's like meeting a new girl. Oh man, she fine. She reminds me of my old girlfriend, but I can't go with her because she got these tendencies the same as my old girl. Man, it's a new lady. So you can't go back. They have shown that they can win, and they are a team. What I like about those two teams, fellas, and you're going to see the trend moving forward in the NBA. It's all about collectively getting guys that love each other and respect and play together. Those two teams mirror each other. They love playing with each other. OKC started it with one interview and then everybody's around. Man, that's camaraderie. They're around, they joke, and I think you're going to see that trend. I've been on some winning teams, and I know how we win. We do things together off the court. Our families, our wives, significant others do things together. The kids play together. Man, that builds chemistry. And then I've been on team was very selfish. You have front office, that didn't know what they were doing. You had coach that didn't relate to the players. But it seems like that Oklahoma OKC coach, he relates to the players. And Rick Carlisle's an old school guy, but he's learned what to do. And I'll tell you another key guy on that bench, Lord Pierce, does a great job of relating to those players. He's another guy I think will get another shot. He had a bad situation in Atlanta, young team and all those. But you're going to see this trend of guys playing together, loving it. And let me say this because and what I'm saying is true. I heard they interviewed Miles Turner after the game. And they said, why is it collectively you guys never get down and you're all together? He said, man, in my 10 years here in Indiana, he said, this is the best team. He said, because we are a brotherhood. And he said, he used this phrase, it's the power of friendship. And man, that really means a lot, the power of friendship. And I've been on teams and I've seen other teams in professional sports where your leader, the Josh Allen or Aaron Rodgers or whoever, the other kid, the Kansas City, Mahomes, they're all family. They get along, and Josh Allen's another one that really, really pulls for his players, support his players. Aaron Rodgers would do the same, even though I'm not a big Aaron Rodgers fan. But those guys collectively come together, and that's powerful.
Well, the way Aaron Rodgers is looking now, you don't see any kind of camaraderie with him. Like how he's basically holding the Steelers hostage.
Oh, he's done.
Josh Allen pretty much ran Stephon Diggs out of there. So
he's done. Aaron Rodgers is done. His ego just is there. But what else does Pittsburgh have?
Hey, we're going to get to the finals and have you guys discuss that. But we talked about some of the coaching stuff with Thibodeau being fired. A lot of people found that surprising that he's gone. But, Phoenix is going to hire a coach soon. I think Jordan Ott is a name. I'm not familiar with his background, but it's a name that's out there. He's assistant.
They hired him.
He's already been hired. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And he comes from a winning culture, and I think that guy is from that area. He was a ball boy or the 15th guy at Michigan State or something who owns the team. So
Matt Ishbia.
Yeah. But they hired him. They which I don't get it, but that's.
Well, I'm curious to see who he's going to be coaching because there's a good chance Kevin Durant's not going to be there.
Oh, he's done. He's gone. And
Giannis could be gone from Milwaukee. Do you think both those guys will be? You already said you think Durant's gone. What about Giannis?
Kevin, I think Kevin has a clause. A no trade clause, but he also isn't he, Mike? You may know better. Isn't he an unrestricted free agent? Where Giannis has still a year or two. But
right, but see that, and that's the drawback with that is that everybody's going on. No, Giannis is such a loyal guy, and they're already putting out feelers for the Milwaukee community. Of course, I'm always in touch with what's going on back home, and basically saying that, yeah, Giannis. I saw someone, a former NBA player, put out a poll on Facebook about where do you think Giannis should go? Where's a good place for him to go to win? I'm like, why are we worried about where he goes to win if he's leaving this team? And I'm saying that when do we get to that point where
right, you're a Bucks fan, right?
That's just like what Max said. When your girlfriend leaves, I hope she finds a good boyfriend that's better than me. I mean, why would you care? So that, and then the whole thing. Of course, I'm still flummoxed over when he said, "I don't believe in failure." I'm like, dude, you guys have underachieved every single year except 21. Other than that, you guys are always expected to be a front runner for a championship, and you fail miserably, and it's always something. But my thing is that now it's like everybody's saying, well, Giannis deserves to go somewhere. You got to get out of Milwaukee. I'm like, why do we keep dumping on, certain cities because you don't think it's a live city, so he should go there? And I'm like, not everybody deserves to be on that. Same thing with Kevin Durant. I remember the Brooklyn owner said, Kyrie, you're not going to LA. We're going to send you to Dallas. And Kevin, hey, go wherever you want to. Go to a stacked team. Go to Phoenix where you'll have 2 all-pro players. And that turned out to be a disaster. He had the same thing in Brooklyn. And right now, they're probably going to say, well, he got to go to a team that's really good. I'm like, why did we say that? I mean, that's when you get into where it's starting to be unfair that we select certain players that we say, well, we got to find a way for the league to allow them to go there. Even with Kevin Durant going to the Warriors, that was because there's a loophole in the salary cap. I mean, technically speaking, there's no way Golden State, coming off of the finals, should have been able to get a free agent of that ilk. But they had some type of loophole in the salary cap that year that somehow worked perfectly for the Warriors, and they were to get him. So now you get to a situation where you may be a free agent, but like we said with Giannis, he still got years on his contract. So the only way he's going to get somewhere else is if they trade. Then Milwaukee,
Mike, let me ask you. Go ahead, Ricky. You had something to say.
No, go ahead, Matt. You got the floor.
Mike, let me ask you, what newspaper you work for? Who do you work for?
Myself, freelance.
Okay, you're freelance. Let's say you work for, let's just throw it in the San Francisco Chronicle, and somebody in the LA Times or the Oklahoma Times offer you a double your contract. You out of there. You're gone. You love San Francisco.
Yeah.
Okay, you're out of there. What's happening? And I don't think you're going to ever see it again. Who's in the finals now? 2 small markets.
Yep.
2 small markets, and that was because David Stern saw that years ago, changed the salary cap structure, and made it a very competitive. And it's taken this long to get there. And Kevin Durant can pretty much go somewhere, but they will do a sign and trade. Same with Giannis. They're going to go someplace, some team where they have the assets to bring him in. And I heard a rumor about saw something in the paper that Toronto's interested. Well, Toronto is probably the 7th, 8th team and the best team in the East. They're not going anywhere. Even though they got a young team, you can't strip your team to bring in a Giannis who's 33 or 34. You can't do the same thing. The Golden State Warriors can sign and trade the young kid who's a free agent. The small power forward, who I think is going to be a good player somewhere else, going to be a great player. So they can do that to get Giannis. If I'm Giannis and Giannis' position, and I've made mistakes as a free agent when I was a player and signed with the Lakers who had my rights, should have stayed in the ABA and gone into one of those teams. But the power positioning and powering up those franchises, those teams today is long gone. You got to have the assets. New York made a terrible mistake in giving 5 first-round draft picks to New Jersey for Bridges, who's not worth it. Never was an all-star. Right. So you can't strip your team or tear it down for certain guys. Giannis, you can. if you got the assets. And I see Giannis going to San Francisco or going somewhere where he can make a difference with those teams. I would, if I was Denver, I would go after Giannis or Kevin because he makes the difference and give up Michael Porter and somebody else.
And Durant will be 37 in September. I keep hearing his name mentioned coming to Detroit. I mean, would I love to have a Kevin Durant? Absolutely. But I'm not breaking up this team to bring in a 37-year-old guy.
Right.
And my question, Matt, wouldn't Giannis and Joker contradict each other?
That's what I was going to ask. Good question, Mike.
He will make that team a winner because it's a go-to league. You got to have a superstar that can carry your team. Joker was look, you had a 6'6", 6'5" Caruso guard him. Nobody else could, and Murray, Murray struggled. They need obviously a point guard there in Denver. But Murray struggled in the last round in the playoff. But no, Giannis, it will make all the difference. Certainly if he goes to Golden State.
But to Mike's question, Matt, you're coaching that team. You've run NBA offensive. How do you make the Joker and Giannis effective at the same time on the floor?
Well, I think you can. Yeah, listen, you figured it out on the run. Joker is the point.
He is
forward.
A great passer.
Yeah, great. He's a great point guard, point forward, point center. He will make it out. But at the end of the day, when you need a basket, you get the ball in the hands of Giannis. And see, they're just a jump shooting team. When you look at Murray and you look at the other kid, Porter, their second best player out there is Gordon.
I think Gordon.
Yeah. I mean, he's consistent. So I think that's a trade, and Denver's got some asset. I would trade Michael Porter and who else there to go after Giannis and a couple of draft picks and get him out of the East, bring him to the West. I mean, you've got to look at the window. Are we one of those teams in the 4 or 5 teams that's going to make it to the finals and possibly win a championship? And they are.
But you being a former Bucks coach, what about on their end? We got to get somebody back significant. We're giving away a guy that, if you don't say Kareem, is our best player in franchise history. So what are we getting back for getting rid of him, Giannis, while he's under contract? It's not like. Well,
I'm gonna tell you what you're not going. I'm gonna tell you what you're not going to get. In 2 years, he's out of there, and what you're going to get is an unhappy player that's trying to use his chips now to go somewhere where he can win in the next 2-3 years. What is Giannis? 33, 34? He's up there.
Yeah, he's been around.
Yeah, with a lot of injuries.
And I'm just loving this conversation. You're watching the African American Athlete live stream. I'm Rickey Hampton, and my frat brother Michael Roberson, and my other frat brother, the great Matt Calvin. We're talking NBA hoops, and we're going to get to this finals and go in on that. But before we do, Mac, with these coaching, every year you hear these coaches. You mentioned Jay Wright, who was a college coach, but most college coaches don't seem to fare well in the NBA. I heard Hurley's name mentioned for the Knicks job.
No, he's in that case. He's in that case. No.
And Tom Izzo of Michigan State.
What's Hurley?
Two
Hurley's coaches.
Yeah, the ones that over at UConn.
Right.
Yeah.
He could not coach NBA guys.
No.
Tom Izzo cannot coach NBA guys.
Well, he'd be lucky to last the season. Hell, he's 68, 69, isn't he? I mean, you got to get up and down that bench, wear you out, man.
Yeah, but why is that transition hard for most college coaches, Matt?
I think it's much easier today, Ricky and Mike, because the NBA has trended toward the college game. You see a lot of teams now playing zone. They had, like I said, it's a copycat league. They put Caruso on Joker, slowed him down, And now you're seeing that happen in the NBA now. They're playing a zone. I love the mix, but I think that before college coaches, they had a one mindset, and that's the way the college game is structured, playing a lot of zone and playing 10, 11, 12 guys. And then the other thing, as I talked about earlier, in college, it's a coach's game. In the pros, it's a player's game. You just have to make adjustments and have good players and find position, put the ball in their hand at the right time. I said 3 or 4 years ago when Giannis, before he won a championship, why are you having this guy with the ball 20 feet away from the basket trying to beat a guy? Put him over the elbow. When you need basket, put him by the elbow so he can go one-on-one. Now you can't double team. That's my reason.
What do you think about Doc Rivers as a coach?
I'm not going to say anything. I love Doc. I coached Doc when I was with the Clippers. I just think that he saw a good situation, but he's got a toxic situation there with a guy who can't play any more than 35 games a year in the big fella, Embiid, and then you got another guy that can't play no more than 60 games a year in George. So he's got an old team. An old team with just one great young player.
He's in Milwaukee now, but he had that in New York.
In Philly. Yeah, no, I'm saying, but he's got the same thing. He pretty much he's got an old team there. He's got an old team in Milwaukee. So he's got a 34-year-old guard that won't be back for at least 2 years in Leonard. Okay, who with that injury he's done. And then they got rid of Milton. The only best player the good player they got there is really Portis. You got an old Lopez. They got rid of Holiday. They broke that team up. So Doc's in a bad situation. He's got 3 years left on his contract, so he's not going anywhere. But where do you build? So that's what Giannis is looking at. We're not going to. They will wear him out in 2 years if he stays with that team, and he sees that. And going back to your question, Mike, he is very loyal. He's a family guy. I can't see him in New York. I know New York will have him, but I can't see he and Bronson playing together. That's what I can't see. And they don't have the assets.
Well, my question is this though: what about the whole Adrian Griffin situation when they had that winning record? Because remember, Doc had to take over after that nonsense, and people didn't want to blame Giannis. But they'll be quick to blame LeBron if any kind of coaching change happened. So
and they were 33-14, Mike.
That's what I'm saying. You think that was the beginning of the end of this whole Giannis wants to leave stuff?
Yeah, that was a relationship. That was a relationship. They didn't like Griffin. That was obviously a relationship problem right there. They just, and then Doc was available. So, and then Doc made the mistake of coming in mid-season. And trying to adjust, but that was a player-coach relationship that went sour. Same with Mike
Budenholzer.
Yeah, he should have been gone. I mean, I saw him lose games that a junior high school coach would win. Late game coaching. Really, I mean, it was pitiful. He had to go with 2 or 3 years left on his contract, and then he couldn't fit in. He's one of those guys, strange guy. Even when he went to Phoenix, you can't coach Durant, you can't coach Bill, who injured all the time, and Booker, who was injured all the time. So he was destined to leave. So Giannis is going to end up. He's going to do very well. He is going to do very well. He's going to end up in a good situation. Now, you guys haven't talked about Dallas now in the West, who I think is an up-and-coming team if they take care of the toilet tissue man and AD, Sophie Shaman.
Yeah, and that's the thing too that when he first got there, they was like, "Hey, man, maybe Dallas actually won this trade." Remember all that talk, and then he gets hurt right away.
Yep.
And then eventually Kyrie gets hurt. It's like, oh, this is just a disaster now. So yeah. I mean, Giannis goes there. But then you had the whole thing about, hey, AD would say, he would say, I don't want to play center. And then Giannis, I don't think he wants to play center. So then you want to have that same old nonsense going on again about both of them being out of position or both of them wanting to play the same position.
Yeah, but they got two young boys can play center.
Lively and
yeah.
the other big guy.
Yeah.
And I like that other big guy because he knows his role.
Yeah.
I'm going to get a rebound. If I can dunk it, I'm going to dunk it. If not, I'm going to throw it to somebody else.
Yeah, but let me tell you, that boy Cooper Flag can play now. He's one of the best young kids coming out of college now. He going to turn that franchise around. But you realize you're not going to have probably Kyrie Irving probably until, January, February, with that Achilles tendon tear. If that, he's up in age. He's 34. Yeah. So, but I still see they have the pieces now. They're not going to trade it. They after that trade with Luka, they're not going to trade that number one pick.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hey, let's well, I gotta add one more. Then we gotta get to the finals. I know that's what everybody wants to hear about. But I just read the Pelicans say they are going to stick with Zion as their franchise guy.
What would you say? What you going to say? We get rid of him and then devalue the player? You're going to say nice things about him. I mean, he's in the news last week in terms of the allegations of rape charges, and Zion just needs somebody to mentor him so he can get it together. He's got too many off the court problems, and I don't want to get into it, but it's well known if you're connected to the NBA. He's just 23 years old, but that's an old team, and I think Dumas will do a great job. But that's a rebuilding franchise.
Yeah,
I agree too. And and it's at first you go through all the injuries, then the weight issues, and then now it's off the court stuff. It's just like, man, your career is going to be over before it even really begins, because he's had moments, but we got a lot of wasted years that's been going on with this guy. And will he ever come close to his potential?
Yeah, it's interesting, Mike, and Ricky, that three out of four of those players that graduated at the same time, not graduated, but declared for the draft, have not really done very well. Only guys has had a productive and a pretty much successful career so far. R.J. Barrett up in Toronto. He had a great year. In Toronto. The other three guys, Reddish, Zion, and Marvin Bagley haven't done very well at all. Very inconsistent.
And John Morant's in that class, but he makes more news off the court than he does on the court. So
yeah, and that's sad, it's interesting that you talk about Halliburton's father, he was wrong, and he admitted, and his son admitted he was wrong. Giannis was childish to confront him. Where was security? I had a problem. Where was security? But you got to be more mature than that. But how about John Morant's father, he's been in the news a lot over this kid's career. But Morant is like Ant, and Ant's got a nice smile, but he's got some challenges emotionally that he needs to clear up. $500,000, he's fine all year long, almost $1 million, and so he's got these commercials now, but he's not going to have them. He continue to do the things he's doing on the basketball court.
Okay, let's break down this.
And off the basketball court, because he has a controversial situation too.
Well, he got 4 babies. He's just 23 years old, by 3 different women. Call it the way it is. And he's known for saying,
I'm going to put down 18 years worth of money down so I don't have to do anything with that. That's what everybody's talking about now, instead of, how he's progressing as a player. And then he do all the trash talking, but you don't really fulfill your trash talking. You don't cash the check that your butt made, or however it goes.
I agree with you, brother.
Let's get to these finals. Indy versus OKC. And Mac, I want you to start us off, your thoughts on the series. But Indy has a lot of history that people don't know about, and fill us in on the ABA portion of Indy, the Indiana Pacers.
from the past ABA, they were one of the top 2 or 3 franchises. And for many years, when they had the great Roger Brown, Mel Daniels, George McGinnis, and those young players, they were the top franchise. I mean, they sold out all the time. And then, of course, Utah came along and a couple other teams. You know, it's interesting because my rookie year at 20 years old, I went with the LA Stars. I played the Indiana Pacers for the finals in the ABA. We won 23 out of 24 games just to make the playoff, and then we took them to the finals. But it's been a storied franchise, great ownership, and obviously they've had great player, great history there. And so I'm obviously pulling for them. I think they got the players. I think they're deep. I think they're 8, 9, 10 players deep, and I think they're gonna. I think they're gonna give OKC a run for the money, and I think that they will win it in 7 games. I think
who's going to be key for them?
I think the key for them is Miles Turner. Miles Turner will be the key because I don't think their big guy. He's not going to come out and play the pick and roll. And if you don't come out and play Miles Turner on the pick and roll, and when they kick back to him for the 3-point shot, excellent 3-point shooter, and I think you're going to be in trouble. And they're not going to play Holmgren on him. So Holmgren is more of a small forward, power forward, if you will. So I think you're going to have problems there. I think the bench play of Indiana is much stronger. I think they don't lose anything when Halliburton goes out and they put the little guy in, the little point guard, McConnell, who's excellent. You know, you don't lose anything. I don't think you lose anything. And he's just been inconsistent in the playoffs. Is Mathurin. You know, he's capable of getting you 18, 22 points off the bench. So I think their bench is a lot stronger. You got, even with Thomas Bryant coming up the other day, I've always liked Thomas Bryant as a backup center, even when he was with the Lakers. So they're pretty deep. You know, they've got someone that can keep a body defensively on Shea at all times. And then the only other scorer they really got is the Williams kid. And he's peaked, but he's also been inconsistent throughout the playoffs, and Caruso going to do his thing. He's going to get the hustle points and, he's going to knock people down. But I think overall in a 7-game series, I think the team that has the deepest bench will win. If you take Shea out of there, if you wear him down, and they got the guards to do that. They got 3 strong guards that can stay. Certainly the one kid, Nesbrant.
Yeah, I can never pronounce his name.
Yeah, I mean he's close to being an all defensive team type player, and he did an excellent job against Bronson and some of the other players throughout the playoffs. So that's how I look. Where's the difference? And the difference I think is the bench play. Halliburton's going to make shots. He's going to do his thing, but the other key is Siakam. I think he is. If it wasn't Turner, I mean, he is definitely the one key. And then you got to contend with Halliburton. But I think Miles Turner and his 3-point shooting and his ability to rebound and get the hustle points around the basket is the key. And so I think that there's no question in my mind, Indiana. Now the first game tomorrow, you're going to see a sluggish OKC. Why? Because they've been off 10 days, and you can't duplicate game type experience or practice by yourself. You've got to have game type situation practice, and I think that 10-day layoff is going to really hurt them. Whereas Indiana's only been off 3 or 4 days now, so it's going to be interesting. But I like and listen, you can't take any games off in the playoff. You lose one, man. It's hard to catch up. You got to win back on the other players.
Ask the Knicks.
Yeah,
Michael, how you see this?
Especially in your home arena. Well, for me, I'm kind of like with Mag too. It's interesting to see those teams that came in the league and which, in my opinion, made the league a better league when the ABA teams came in.
Oh, for sure.
They want to say 79, but I definitely say 76 is when the NBA changed for the better. But you got half of them have already won championships. Denver just did it recently, and of course, San Antonio.
Mike, not to cut you off. Mike, not to cut you off. What year did you say you saw the league change?
I said 76 when the
NBA
merger, came in here.
Yeah, 76, 77. Yeah, okay. Well, when
because they were copying y'all, Matt. They were copying y'all.
Actually, Mike, it was 79. That's when they started the 3-point shot. So the merger came about. The 3-point shot didn't come into existence until 79.
No, I know that, but I'm saying they want to say 79 because of Magic and Bird. That's when a lot of people try to say that's when the NBA changed, when Bird and Magic came in. But I say it was
Doc in 76, yeah.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, Doc, Guinness, all those legends. Remember, the All-Star game was in Milwaukee, and Doc won it. And most of that All-Star team was ABA players. That's how
11 out of 22 players. 11 out of the 22 players.
So
that's crazy.
So that's why I say the league changed. But so for me, it's interesting to see Indiana maybe being that third team win it, and then you say all you have left is the Nets, and the Nets have been in the finals in this century. Early days with Jason Kidd and all those guys, Richard Jefferson. But how would you feel when all four teams have won championship, and then you find that completion of the ABA did good in their infiltration into the NBA? So how would you feel with that?
Very excited. I'm excited the fact that they're now in the finals and represent still the ABA with this old guy. In 76, 77 season, it'll be 50 years since the merger. And so I would love to see the Pacers win a year before the merger had taken place. There's not many of us still around that were part. I was on the board of directors and the ABA Players Association when that merger took place. But I'm really happy they have an excellent owner in the Simon brothers, and they're the number one owners of malls, shopping centers all over the country. He's a philanthropic guy. He gives back. Just one this year will be inducted to the Naismith Hall of Fame as a major contributor. So I'm happy for them. Obviously, the face of the franchise has always been Reggie Miller, but the face of the franchise, and you probably can see in the background my picture back then. That's Roger Brown. He was definitely the face of that franchise with Mel Daniels, and then George McGinnis came along, and then they had the great Billy Knight. So they've always had a great, great franchise, and have always been right there in the top of the tenders. So yeah, Mike, I agree with you. It's a solid franchise.
You think they can win, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about it is that what I said earlier about how OKC still has something to prove. Like I said, you had the best record the last 2 years, especially in the Western Conference. And do you have enough to get over the hump this year? But then you can't discount the way Indiana's playing throughout the playoffs. I mean, they snatch home court right away whenever they're the underdog. And think about it. People talk about, the Knicks should have won game one. Indiana probably should have swept them. Remember, they blew game 3.
Right.
That's how
they gave them one. They gave them
game 3, right? So, that's what I'm saying. Guys, you guys got to stop looking at, game 1 was the pivotal moment. No. Game 3, they were dominating them, and they had a big lead, and they gave it up. They got too loose with the ball and gave it up and lost at home. It's like, come on, guys, you're not showing, what you need to do to make it to that next level. So they righted the ship for game 4 and just said, okay, this is our series. We had a hiccup, and we've had hiccups in game 3 all throughout this playoff. So that's the thing. Another thing there is that if they snatch home court right away from OKC, will they have that same malaise of going back to the home court and maybe we'll just give this one back because we stole games in the home court? Or will they have the mentality that we don't step on their neck and they don't know what it's like to win a championship just like we don't. So if we step on their neck right away, we got to make sure we complete the job as quickly as possible, expeditiously as possible.
Michael, the format, I don't think it's changed. It's 2-3-2. and so that makes a difference if you win the first game.
They stopped.
Did they change?
Yeah,
Okay.
they went back. They went back to the
which I think is good.
I was looking at the schedule because I thought I was going to get credentials. So what I was going to do, first I was going to go down to Oklahoma City, which I've never been to. But then I started thinking, I said, you know what? If this is a long series, I'll just do the Indiana games. And games 3 and 4 were going to be in Indiana. And then 5 was going to be back in OKC. And then 6 would be back in Indiana. So I was going to try to stay in the Midwest and go back home to Wisconsin between games 4 and game 6. So that's how I know it's not 2-3-2 because
they went back to it.
That's easier for travel. Yeah, that's easier for travel. But they said it gave the road team the advantage to have those 3 games, and then some said it was a disadvantage to have 3 straight games at home because it's hard to win 3 straight games. So that's the reason why they switched it back.
Well, it used to be Mike and Ricky because of traveling purposes. You had a East Coast team and a West Coast team. You only had one day in between the travel. So but you're absolutely right. But so it's going to be a great series.
Hey, Mac, we got to get out of here. But you piqued my interest. I forgot about it'll be 50 years since the ABA teams came in. Will the old ABA guys, do you guys have anything planned for that?
Well, as we get a little closer, that's going to be in Phoenix. Next year, the All-Star game is going to be here in Los Angeles. And so, Mike, before I get, and we can talk about it another time, I still have some relationships in the NBA, Mike, and I know Mike James and some of the folks that with the NBA media. So I'd be more than happy to, as we move forward, maybe next year, send a letter or even for coming down, because it's all about relationships.
That's
for you
right.
And certainly African Americans, brothers or people don't get credentials, because I have some friends with the LA Sentinel that is a local African American paper here.
The great LA Sentinel, yes.
Yeah. So Ken Miller, who used to cover college and a lot of things, I was able to get him some credentials many years ago. He's retired now. So I'd be more than happy to send a letter on your behalf and go from there.
All right.
That would be awesome.
Hey, we got it. We got. Hey, Matt, can we get you back maybe as the series goes on so we can break down some of these games?
I would love to. I thought you guys forgot about me. It's been on in a couple of months, man. We'd be more than happy. I thought, man.
Now, never forget about you, legend. No. Well, we're going to get out of here, but we'll be back in a few days breaking down the series. Indy, you know what? I think I'm going to go with OKC, but I think it's going to be 7 games. I would not be surprised to see the Pacers win, but we'll talk about it before. From my friend, brother Michael Roberson, I'm Rick. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
All right. So, have any word about Hall of Fame situation?
I did not get in. No, I did not get in. I was a finalist, but I did not get in. And but I the good thing is Julius Erving is now the vice chairman. But I had a good run. I had a lot of great letters from David Thompson, Bobby Jones, Dick Bavetta, and I can go on and on and on. Nancy Liebman has been supported, Rick Barry. So I'm on the right track, guys. And
it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, you guys have to be my guests to come, man.
Absolutely. Let us know.
Yeah. Well, you'll read about it.
For Mike Roberson, I'm Rick Hampton and the great Matt Calvin. See you next time. Peace, everybody.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.